Hello, welcome back. Today we're looking at decorating, upcycling these little lunch bags, I guess. They're not glassine, but they're like a type of wax paper, I guess. This is a pin that leads to a blog, but the pin doesn't lead to the actual photo. And digging around on the blog, I can't see any instructions, so I'm gonna wing it. Are you surprised? It involves a tear and a fold and then layering of items. So I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to start with a layer of white gesso on the front. The only thing I don't like is this little serrated edge at the back, but I think I can probably fix that with a border punch once I've done the design on the rest to see how it goes. The pin also shows a craft bag, not a white bag, but I don't have craft. Okay, let's start. I'm doing 3 so that if I mess one up, I've got others to carry on with. My brush is also slightly wet, so I'm just going over. I don't know if I want to stamp, and these bags are very thin, right? So the ink will bleed, so the gesso helps with that. Just another note on this video series, and it may sound a bit ridiculous to those watching. I don't check if these YouTube videos dealing with whatever pin I'm making. If there's a function that you can say, I've tried this pin, and if no one's linking to a YouTube video or whatever, I just want to know, is it worthwhile? You know, we all pin things. Is it worthwhile? Can I clear it off my board? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Is it something that I want in my repertoire when I make stuff? And unless I try it once, I'm never gonna, when you're in a rush to do something, you're never gonna say, let me try something new. You're just gonna go back to what you know. So I'm hoping to expand what I know and what I can do and what I've tried a bit, and also just clearing up my Pinterest boards. The pin shows a band, I'd say, something like that, of scrapbook paper on the bottom of the page. This is all scrap offcuts. This is 9.5 centimeters, so that's what I'm going to go with, because that's what I have. This one is quite good because of the detail, and then I've got a plain one, which I think I'm going to do an embossing on, just to see how that plays with the whole thing while my gesso dries. This piece is slightly bigger, it's almost 11, which I think is a bit too big, but I'm going to just, when I say emboss, I mean embossing folder, texture it, and then we can see how it works. When you've done your gesso, I didn't do the back at all, I'm assuming it'll be on a journal page, just remember to pull your bag open, that you don't stick it to the back, because I did the little lip and I did the front, and then that can dry. I'm actually just going to put it upright over a bottle so that I know it doesn't close over itself. My gesso isn't quite dry. I'm just turning my attention to one of the construction parts, which is the cover of a scrapbook paper. I've also got a piece of scrap material which I'm going to try. It's now just to get the ratios right. This one looks too high, so I think I'm going to trim about probably 1 centimeter off. Yeah, I think, how long is the bag? The bag's 13.5, so maybe about 8.5 would be a good cover to allow. At the top it gets a tear and it gets lace and gets all sorts of embellishments according to the picture, so to make that element, to make space for that element, I think this should be about 8 centimeter on this size bag. Okay, on to the bird that I don't know how it's going to work. I'm just going to mark with a pencil the 8 centimeters that I know where my tear is going to stop. That was quite good. Okay, I'm going to mark it with gold, that in case it shows, it's not such a big deal. Okay, 8 is there. And it's also in the middle. I'm using the back seam as a sort of guide. Okay, now we need a tear, and guess there's no way to do it, but to do it. I just want to see if it's in the middle-ish, 11.5, just under 6. Yeah, that's actually good. So that back seam, the bag has got a fold there, and that gives a good guide. So now I'm just tearing. I'm using a ruler to tear all 3, and then we can see which way to best do it. The tear needs some dimension because you're opening it up, and I think the best way to do that will be with some texture paste or some gel medium. So you want something like that. It's a tear and a tuck, so you're not actually taking any of the inside away. It's just this should be about 5 now, right? Yeah, 5 centimeters. And it's basically you rolling it and shaping it, because you don't want it flat. You want some definition. And then the pin shows that there's decoration on the inside. So I think this best would be to open your fold like that and just decorate that, either with decoupage, with stamping, with other paper, but it obviously needs to be quite thin. Gesso over it to make it somewhat moldable and somewhat stiffer than this paper, but at the same time you could probably just ink it too. It depends on the effect that you're getting. These aren't vintage, they're quite fresh colors though, so I don't want to distress too much. Let me just think. Different things. The first one I'm going to do as an ink, and then I'm going to do a light gesso over it to sort of dull the ink, so it'll be in a matching color, maybe turquoise. I really like the turquoise. Stamped one, and I've roughly just decoupaged the other one. This one now has gel medium, so I think if I shape, I'm not even cutting, I'm just shaping the tear as is using the gel medium to sort of stick whatever's here into a shape. Hopefully that's okay. And then I'll trim off the inside when it's dry. So actually you can probably just tuck that in and hide the whole thing, and then your edges are also quite neat. Gel medium is just very sticky, so just don't stick yourself to your project like me. Yeah, that works. So your tuck now has dimension because you've stuck it up with a gel medium, and it also is the folds and the things are hidden because of the way you've done the decoupage. Okay, the next one that I stamped, I'm going to use the texture paste to sort of build it into something very much the way I've used the gel medium. The stamp's reacting a little bit because it was distress with the with the texture paste, but again, so just sort of, there you go. It gives it a bit of, the pin makes it look slightly more torn, so I don't know, maybe I should just take a bit off and sort of try. I don't know, I think this is personal preference, and I don't think it's such a big deal. Maybe there's a super easy tip on how to make terry papers look terry. Okay, so that's the texture paste, and then the last one I'm just going to use some ink and distress it and see how that looks. I'm just using some glue stick to tuck the corner in and sort of crumpling it, and then I'm just going to go over it with Distress Color. The next step is to make a little layer at the back of vellum. So I've got some baking parchment, and I've got some, this is more like tracing paper, and this is a proper thick, it's one of the Gorgeous Girl range vellums. So you need to just make a little piece that slides in the back, and then the pin shows that it's punched. So now just to see which color goes best where. So to give you an idea, this is just a little block that's cut that then slides in here, because there will be things going at the back, and then you can give it a pattern. So it ends up something like that. As my folds are drying, specifically this one with the gel medium, I'm just continuing to pinch it and tuck it, that it looks like a roll fold, and that the definition in it stays and doesn't go away. I think the only thing that you can do is you can slide it in to where you want it, and then a tiny dot of glue and just hold it, because otherwise it's very difficult to now glue something inside something else. I've also just freehand cut off the serrated edge. It was irritating me and I think it didn't look nice. Okay, before you glue this in, if you want to decorate this back tip either with a script stencil or just some smearing or some wax or something, or I mean you could just say you just gonna edge it with ink, that's also fine. So just deal with that little bit, because it does show, because of the nature of how my bag is cut. If you had one of the bags with a flap that goes straight up, you could have your vellum peek out much further, but mine's defined by the shape of the bag. So these all have their little vellum inserts now. I stamped this one. This one's parchment with a pattern, and this one I forgot to give a pattern, so it's okay. I mean, it could be better. And then this top, I just ran a paper distressing thing over so that it looks a bit torn. I think you can just sanding block it, or you could probably just wet it and tear it a bit. So that's starting to look like something. The next thing is, obviously all of these now have their little overlays. So whatever's left here, you can decorate. I'm going to try maybe some postage stamps. It's quite big, these bags are quite small actually. Postage stamps, and then it still gets lace and ribbon over this with a little bouquet here. So keep that in mind. It doesn't need a lot of embellishment here, but it needs something. Also, if you had plain vellum here, you could stamp the vellum, because then that shows through. I've given them each a little mail stamp and a postage stamp. I'm going to do the scrapbook overlays now. Just distress your edges if you want to. The fabric I frayed, so I purposefully didn't cut with the pinking shears because I like the movement. And then this one is the one I embossed, and I just rubbed some gold paste over it. And then comes all the extra layering. I cut this far left one for this side, but this is the other side. I actually like it more, so I'm going to switch it over. The pin suggests finishing off with buttons, or the picture, buttons, lace, and some string, and some flowers. I don't know if I'm feeling it yet. I think it needs a lot of work. And then the last thing is, because I've flipped this paper, that blue looks very out of place now, so I think I'm just going to go over it with like one of this vintage brown, just to tone it down, because it looks very fresh against this now. Okay, I'm going to layer over lace embellishments and some trims just with the glue gun. So what you want to do is you want to hide your edge and where your tear ends. So just position it like that, and then string, this is wax twine, wraps around, and then you make it look pretty embellished. So I'm going to try it, and then I'll show you the end result. So this one I've wrapped the twine and I put some beads on just for some movement, and I ended it up with a button, and then I'm leaving all of that long until I do my flowers. So I've got some vintage millinery things. They're a bit crumpled, but the vintage ones have a really nice texture because they're very often natural fabrics. So I'm going to layer, this is the only vintage, the leaf, and then there's a little rolled rosette. This I torn off from somewhere else. Let's just see if I can get the red off. That and one of those tiny little roses. So I'll layer that with the leaf as the final, and then we can judge what's wrong and what do you use it for. So that's done, it's glued. That's a nice little touch. So in effect, you end up with a tuck spot in front of the vellum and a long pocket at the back of the vellum, and you can hide what's in there, but because of the vellum you still see it. So it's like a double pocket. It's okay. I'm not happy with my folds. I think there should have been more on the folds. It's decorative, but I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's amazing. Maybe just one card. Okay, let's finish the next one. So here we go. These are the vellum lined pockets. I don't call vellum lined bags. I'm not sure what else to call them. But looking at them like this, do you see there? That tag is behind the vellum, but you still see. So I'm guessing that's actually what the idea was. A lot of it looks very boring until you start, obviously, with the embellishing. So you end up with a small pocket. How I attach the vellum is I put a little bit of gel medium and a little bit of gel medium, just 2 little dots, and I slid the pocket in, and then I just pressed. So I mean, I think if you press really hard down the middle, your things are going to disappear, but for now that's okay. And then it's quite nice to get the sort of peek through the vellum of what's going on. What I would have done differently is I would have probably not left this so white. It's okay, but I think it's a bit jarring. So maybe just a light pink over all of it. The only thing is when you do something so late, like I'm planning to do now, that you may just mess up the whole, yeah, see, that's already a lot better. Okay, so just don't leave stuff white. There's your note to self. Okay, that's better, and that was a very easy fix. Now, the second one is much the same again. This is the little enamel disc from yesterday with the glossy accent, so it does gloss nicely. What I'm disappointed in, and that's my own skill, is the way I made the fold look. I wanted the fold to look much harder, much more rolled. But I mean, you can definitely see that there's a tear, and again you get to see the little detail through the vellum, which is actually quite a nice detail. And then this one I had stamped, which is okay. And again, you get a little pocket for a tuck spot, and then for tags. And if they get a little bit foldy, or that's fine. And then I finished with vintage millinery flowers because I had them. And then, sorry, that's my little girl not listening. And then just with some wax twine, some gold. This is the one with the fabric. I mean, if you wanted to words on here, anything like that, you can embellish them as you wish. But for this, it's quite a nice double, easy double pocket. and you end up using these little lunch bags, which we sometimes have and we don't use. All right, that's it. Please subscribe if you haven't. I love making these videos, but at the same time, I need to feel that there is someone watching out there, and I love your comments. Thank you once again for taking the time to watch and to comment. See you soon. Bye-bye.